Hi there, Chris. Okay. Oh, hi there, Chris. Okay, we're live. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself and
Certainly.
tell us what you're running for?
I am Robert Christian Richardson. I go by Chris, and I am retired from the Veterans Administration, and I am currently running for Congress in the 7th District of California. And there are a number of issues that really need to be addressed. And I was thinking, boy, somebody ought to do something. And then I thought, oh shit, that's me. I'm running for Congress to try and get the people of more of a voice, and also right some of the wrongs that have been done to us in the last year.
And so you're running for U.S. Congress, correct?
U.S. Congress,
Okay.
yes.
So
This is very different than just running for state.
right, right.
It's a whole different set of rules, which we're covering. And
Yeah, yeah.
right now there are 2 Democrats, 3 Republicans, and 1 Green, and you're looking at him.
Right. Excellent. Well, that's good that we're getting Greens to step up and run for office and to represent that very strong progressive platform that Greens have.
Hey, now Bernie will have another vote that he can depend on.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a good point right there. Hey, so yesterday they had the study session
Mhm.
for single payer healthcare, the SB 562 in California.
Yes.
You attended that, and I
Yes,
see
I
one
did.
on your shirt there. So can you tell us your views on healthcare?
Oh my goodness, yes. It's amazing that we haven't gotten single payer before this. And one example of single payer is the Veterans Administration. And there's an awful lot of veterans who are getting their health care from the local hospital at the VA, and most of them are very happy with it. And you know, unfortunately for the rest of us, the insurance companies have huge premiums and big copays, and it's an industry uh, focused on the denial of service, and it adds delay, expense, and decreases the quality of our outcomes. And it's really interesting. There's a web page, fixithealthcare.org, that is put up by the industrialists. They're realizing that, oh my gosh, healthcare, under single payer means that they don't have to deal with the insurance companies any longer. They don't have to negotiate with them any longer. And that money that they were paying into the insurance companies can now be redistributed to their own employees, or to further their business. So it's really good for the industrialists, and it's also extremely good for the employees, because they're going to see a little more money in their paycheck, and they won't be taking it out for the healthcare insurance companies. And the Affordable Care Act has ended up being Unaffordable Care Act, and the insurance companies have just raised the entry level into the healthcare and the quality of services. Probably the poorest in the world, actually. We spend 2 to 3 times as much as any other country on healthcare, and our outcomes are horrible.
Yeah. So the Affordable Care Act, it did provide an option for people with pre-existing conditions, but it didn't address the issue of reducing costs. And
Right.
so I think it's very flawed. Now, you have some, I think great arguments for people on the conservative side
Mhm.
as far as healthcare, because you say it's good for employers in that they
Mhm.
don't have to negotiate with the insurance company.
Well, and
Uh,
small businesses too. I mean, there's small businesses that can't afford to pay for health care for their employees, but now their employees, even part-time workers, can get health care. I mean, what's
yeah,
the downside there, you know?
exactly. So they're not held hostage by their employers,
They are
essentially.
not being held hostage. Exactly. And they're actually seeing a little bit more money in their paycheck because they're not paying the co-pays and the premiums to the insurance companies. The insurance companies came about due to the unions trying to make it possible for the workers to get health care. Unfortunately, as a business, it has actually very little in the way of real product other than having the worker plea to the insurance company for coverage, and if they decide they don't want to cover, they don't. and,
Right.
the employee is stuck with a bill that they cannot pay. We have so many people that are out on the street because they had to make the decision of, oh, am I going to get the surgery or am I going to lose my house?
Right.
And that's sad. That's really sad. Um, another problem, of course, is the homeless. And my gosh, these are there, but for the grace of God, go us. And it's really sad. We have 17 abandoned schools in this county, which could be turned into homeless communes where they have coverage, they have a kitchen that produces hot food for them. A lot of times there's showers available so that they and the homeless with children can leave them where they can go to work and earn money, where they a lot of the homeless actually do have jobs, and they can leave their children with a caretaker there at the school. And a lot of the abandoned schools are being used for adult learning. What a great opportunity to get more people into adult learning.
Yeah,
You
that's an
know,
interesting idea. Yeah.
well, not only that, but during the beginning of World War II, we were able to throw up a housing, camp for our indigenous Japanese civilians called Manzanar, and we hosted them for a long period. And the Fighting 42nd was actually the kids that were coming out of Manzanar and some of the other encampments, and those went up in 90 days. Why can't we do that the same thing for our homeless and get them off the streets and get them health care, and good healthy food rather than eating out of garbage cans and stuff like that, and living under bridges. My God.
Yeah.
Let's do something human for a change.
Yeah. So, healthcare as well as affordable housing or housing are basic human needs, and I think it's
Absolutely.
something that our government needs to make available for us. Otherwise, why even have these government officials working for us if they're not doing that?
Well, we seem to be able to find billions and trillions of dollars to start a new war, but we can't take care of our own people.
Right.
60% of our disposable income for the country goes into defense. Right now, we spend more than, and I heard this the other day, than the top 8 countries spend on defense. We spend more than that, than all of those combined. for our own defense. You know, if we only spent like more than the top two, who are we afraid of? You know, I mean, we are, getting to the point where we're actually exporting terrorism. We are providing weaponry for them and training and, giving them the cause by bombing their homes. If they were doing the same to us, we would be out in the street, fighting back. But no, they don't have that power, but
Right.
we do, and we're unfortunately, we've also been voted to be the most aggressive and the most dangerous to democracy and freedom in the world by other countries.
Hey, so let's get back and finish the topic of healthcare.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me see here. You run a nonprofit that has some things to do with healthcare records or something like that.
Oh, yes. Well, what we're doing, and I'm retired from the Veterans Administration, and before that, I was working for SAIC down in San Diego, where we were doing the Army, Navy, and Air Force hospitals around the world. And that was derived from the Veterans Administration's model, which was built by the VA 40 years ago and has been running their hospitals ever since. And the beauty of the package is that it was designed to be modified. It was designed to be enhanced. And there's like 80 different aspects of the hospital contained in this one package. And this one package is available actually under the Freedom of Information Act. It's free. You guys have paid for it. And this is what Trump is now throwing away and spending $18 billion to Cerner to try and replace it. And what they're going to do is throw away 40 years of outcomes information, outcomes research that could improve healthcare dramatically. And almost every doctor and nurse who's come up, through the ranks has spent a period of time in a VA hospital because they're associated with teaching hospitals and teaching facilities and colleges. And, we had what we considered the golden pair in the VA, which is a programmer and a subject matter expert who would sit down and hash out a new application in an evening or 2 evenings. And, they would do like 90% of the work, hand it over to the production people, and then go visit them the next day and find out what they liked and what they didn't like, and it's so obvious. And, if you were contracting a third party to do this, number one, you'd never have them actually directly contact the doctors and nurses. Number two, it would take 18 to 24 months to accomplish what we can do in a week. And,
okay.
One of the things that has worked so well was what they call BCMA, Barcode Medication Administration. It was designed by a nurse. And it decreased the medication errors by 86% within the VA. That means a lot of patients were not given the wrong medication at the wrong time.
Interesting. So you want to bring this out of the VA into also the general public? Is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
Yes, actually, it already is. We started this back in 2002. Actually, I was over in Kensington, England, giving a paper at the Open Source Healthcare Alliance, And that was like 3 days before 9/11.
Wow.
And yeah, we got back into the country, and it's like, oh man, there was an IT director, an information technologies director from a 1,000-bed hospital in Tehran in the audience. And he says, how can I get this? And I said, well, we can give it to you. It's free. You know, it's not only FOIA, it's world domain available. You know, and it's been fought in the courts, and it turns out that it is available for the whole world to use. And it's currently the National Health System of Jordan, and they're actually extending it to UTF-8, which is an international character set. So they can use the Arabic language with it. And I've been working on how to do internationalization so that we could host more than one language in the system. And it's written in a very strange little language called MUMPS, which is actually 50 years old. And I was a member of the MUMPS Development Committee for ANSI. And we enhanced it, and it's been furthered, and it's still available, and it's available open source. So the whole software stack of the operating system, the database, and the application are all free. You can download them for free. You can, in fact, you can download a virtualized version, which is all set up, and you just run it under one of the virtualized drivers. And it'll run on a laptop, basically.
Sure. So if people want to find out more about this, state your website for this.
Okay, worldvista.org, and it's all one word, WorldVistA. And I'm also on Facebook, and I'm also on LinkedIn, but you'll probably find me easier on Facebook. And
Sure.
I'm fairly outspoken on Facebook.
Sure. Okay, so during the healthcare study session, or the commission yesterday, they said that bringing universal healthcare would create a shortage of doctors, and in order, a good rebuttal to that was that what's prohibited for gaining new doctors is the high cost of education. Can you tell us your views on education and how it should be available to everybody?
Well, actually, this is, again, another problem that we've manufactured for ourselves. Healthcare is just one job area that, quite frankly, an awful lot of the number of doctors is kept low by the AMA in order to keep the prices up. And there's a lot of people that go offshore in order to get their medical certificate. And we can do that here. We can teach them. And the VA hospitals are hungry for more doctors. And this is the thing, is that this is one reason why it's almost impossible to find a third-party vendor who is going to provide the adequate solution for a healthcare environment.
Yeah.
It is easier to teach a doctor to program than a programmer to teach them medicine.
Sure.
And this is the thing, is that the vendors have a solution that they want to sell you, and one size does not fit all. And one of the things that one of the sayings that we had in the VA was, when you've done one hospital, you've done one hospital. Every one of them is different. And like the Indian Service Health Service number is important in Oklahoma, but it's not so important in New York City. Where you're trying to merge records across medical facilities.
Sure.
Or making sure that a patient isn't shopping drugs between hospitals, and that happens all the time, unfortunately.
Yeah. So can you give me your opinion? Outside of healthcare, also, just your view on education. So.
Oh, education is a right. It really is. I came up in the Eisenhower years, which he was basically the last real education president we had. And, I was very lucky to have gotten into the magnet programs in Florida. And, I got a very good education out of it. And it taught me how to teach myself and to, experience and learn from my experience. And it helped me become a techno gypsy, basically.
Sure. So let me ask you this: in your position, if you are elected, what would you do to make education accessible to?
Also, we would reduce the barriers to getting people into education.
What barriers are those?
Well, the cost of education. If we can, run a war for so many billions of dollars, why can't we pay for education for our people? And this is critical in that, an informed electorate knowing how to sift through information and tease out the gems and reject the propaganda is so valuable to democracy and keeping us, in a sane chain of events. And right now we are being told who to fear and what to fear, and we are probably, like Pogo said, we have met the enemy and they are us. And we need to remember what Franklin Delano Roosevelt said: you have nothing to fear but fear itself.
Okay. So what about students with current debt?
Oh, that is the biggest shot in the arm we can give to the economy, is getting these vampire loans taken care of and get the free up these people to actually have the disposable income to plow into the economy. I mean, that the need is there. Unfortunately, so much of it is being paid to these loans that are never ending. And it's insane. It really is insane that the banks have gotten away with what they have for so long. We need to undo that. So
what would you do? What do you advocate for?
Well, I advocate for forgiveness of the student loans. There's a number of ways of doing it, and I think the best way is just decrease the amount that's spent on defense.
Yes.
We are, we just set aside $110 billion for Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is in the process of attacking Yemen. They are just laying waste to that country with our weapons. Why?
Sure.
And
so what you're saying, we could be using that money for education instead.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that would take care of almost all the debts.
Sure.
And these people, they've gone through and expended their life savings and the little money that they have, and they borrowed from their parents and from the banks in order to get a job that's based on the needs of the previous decade. And so, you know, they're coming out and they're saying, okay, here I am, and there aren't any jobs for them. You know, it's like, what are we doing? we are training people, and education is a lifelong process, and training people to train themselves and recognize what it is that they need in order to pursue to make them a better producer in our economy is so powerful. There's so much more we can do with that. That is just been denied because of our you know, the greed that pervades the system right now.
Okay,
and,
so how about if we go ahead and cover? Let me see here.
Oh, okay. Can we hold it a second?
Sure.
Okay. Hey. Hello. I'm in the middle of a blog right now.
We're cleaning the gutters. I was just
okay. Oh, yeah. Hey. Very good. Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Come on, kids. Hey, line up. Come on.
All right, thank you.
You bet. Oh, you. Quiet.
What do you have? 2 dogs?
Oh yeah, I have a rat terrier and a shorty Jack Russell.
Excellent. Cool.
Hey, come here. Come here, you. And I was just it was a good thing that the interruption came, because I had some beef in the oven for these guys, and I forgot to turn it off before we started.
Oh, very good. Okay.
That's okay. That's good. We're
Good
ready
timing.
to continue.
So, you know, you've talked about defense quite a bit.
Yes.
So let's go deeper into that. What do you think is, can you give us your overview on American foreign policy?
Okay.
What you would do, not what we're doing currently. What changes
Okay.
would you make?
Well, we need a new way of actually working with the world rather than against the world. You know, and basically it's been commercial interests that we've been pursuing and trying to take the resources away from other countries. And, you know, there are a lot of things that we are really the authors for the misery in the world in many respects. For instance, like fertilizer, the availability of fertilizer, we have run the cost up so high that, you know, the same amount of fertilizer that gets us 5% increase in yield here in the States would double the outcome of farm produce in other countries. It's obscene, really, what we're doing to other countries. And now we're fracking other countries and making their soil untenable and renewable. You're turning them into dependence, and they can either depend or they can die, basically. And we don't need to be that. We don't need to be that. We need the equivalent of war, but in a different realm, such as extending our reach out to, say, the moon, as a new resource frontier. To the moon's been gathering resources, meteors and comets, for millions of years. And one of the beautiful things about the moon is it doesn't have an atmosphere. That's why there are no good restaurants on the moon. There's no atmosphere.
That's good. Yeah, no ambiance, huh?
Yeah, no ambiance. But the thing is that that's a good thing, because a lot of the minerals that are there are in an unreduced form. They're already ready to be used.
Sure.
And not only that, but we can use electricity is very easy to collect up there. So, it's never a cloudy day. There's always sun.
I see.
And, and with the battery technologies that are going to come out of this are huge. And also, solar collectors with the rare earths that are available on the moon are incredible. We are going to go through a period of new materials research that is going to, make the last, centuries look ridiculous. We're going to have so much as far as new materials to work with. And I'm sorry, my wife told me that they were going to clean the gutters this afternoon, and it's driving the dog nuts.
Oh, I see.
Hey, settle down. Yeah, he's not going to listen. Okay. But at any rate, this is just the beginning. And one of the beautiful things about the moon is that you don't need fuel to launch something off the surface of the moon. You need a mass driver, an electric mass driver. And electric catapult works really well. And dropping things into the Earth atmosphere is going from a shallow gravity well to a bigger gravity well. And we can produce basaltic thread to weave reentry, parasails to lower the materials to any half kilometer on Earth.
So what you're saying is you would want to reduce military spending and use it for more
constructive means. Yes. Well, and what's really cool about this is that, they're talking about, we're going to go, to Mars. Well, yeah, but go to the moon first, because from the moon, you can turn Mars into an IKEA practically, so that by the time the colonists get there, all the resources they need to build the habitats and, the support equipment is already there. They just have to unwrap it and, assemble it. And it's so much cheaper to do it that way than to try and push it out of this gravity well, and which is so deep. We've got 100 miles of atmosphere ahead of above us that we have to push through in order to get people and materials out there. And most of that can be manufactured on the moon. The more we manufacture on the moon, the cheaper it gets.
Okay, so back to the topic of military or American foreign policy. What do you think of Donald Trump's recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of?
I think that is just more of the colonialism by Israel, and they've been taking Israel away from the Palestinians, you know, very roughly. And, you know, they're almost like battered children in that, you know, they're recreating the very thing that they suffered in Poland at the hands of the Nazis. They're doing in Israel, which is sad. Milo. Okay, well, I think this is we're going to have to probably continue this some other time. But I would welcome coming back to this and pursuing this again.
Okay. Can you tell us before you go your Facebook page so that if people want to help you out, volunteer or something like that?
Right. It's under my name, Chris Richardson, CHRIS space RICHARDSON, and I've got a long history there.
Okay. Excellent, Chris. Well, thank you for doing the interview, and we'll do it again soon.
Well, I'll send the kids out next time so that they're not a distraction. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.